And you got like a, what is it called, a red alert or something like that, where you got told
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
danger or something like that.
So, okay, so there were two events. There was one event that spooked them, and it didn't spook me because I was able to determine that this was actually a break-in. In 1986, there was a break-in into my apartment. People stole a stereo and ate a cup of yogurt and threw it half-eaten on the floor. And it was like unpleasant, but I did, counterintelligence measures. I went on my surveillance route. I wrote myself a letter from a fictitious address that was not entirely sealed. So in other words, when the letters are opened mechanically by machines, so when they get closed again, there there is no more not moistened spot in the seal. Okay, and I also saw that at least one of the markers that I said wasn't disturbed. So to me, that was a break-in, and I was right. The center almost wanted to keep me back when I told him about this in Moscow, but I convinced him that I'd be okay. In 1988, and I know this now in hindsight because I met a fellow who was also an illegal, also in New York, at the same time. I met him many years later in Germany. 1988, something spooked the KGB. FBI, we don't have a clue what that was, but they had reasons to believe that somebody gave up my friends and my name, and that we were about to get busted. And to just make a long story short, it was not true.
Right.
And the reason that they figured out it wasn't true, they said my friend went back to Moscow and he stayed there for a couple of months, and then they said, false alarm, you can go back.
Right,
okay.
right.
So in my case was different, talking a red alert. We had a set of signals for very basic, to transmit basic information, such as I would always set a signal when I was back in New York. These were predetermined spots that both the person who sets the signal and the person who reads it would know. And I had one that was on my route to work, where several signs could be placed, such as a call for a meeting, which was unusual, but it would have been possible. I never met anybody KGB in the territory of the United States. And the most important one was the danger signal. That was a red dot. And it was, when I saw that red dot, it was about the size of my fist. It's the only thing that went through my mind is, oh shit. And then and what that meant really, danger, get out of the country. Just don't pack luggage, go get your reserve documents and make sure that you take cash with you, and make your way to Canada. And the plan was to then, getting exfiltrated from Canada. But I didn't do that. I went straight to work. And of course, I was completely non-productive that day. I was a programmer at the time. I was just staring at my computer screen and pretending to work. It didn't work, and my mind was racing. Here's the reason. The KGB did not know this. I had at the time, 18-month-old daughter in the United States. And I really fell in love with this girl. And, and nowadays I have an 11-year-old still, and I watched her grow up. I mean, if you watch, in my case, it's little girls. If you watch them grow up, there's no way that you can't love them. And so I had this deep love for her, and I was at least trying to figure out a way to take care of her, because her mother was not, if she had been raised by her mother alone, she would have grown up poor. So, and I had not found a way to do this, to, channel money into her mother so she would be able to take care of the kid. And I was just thinking and thinking. And so I stalled. And stalling was possible because, maybe I was sick, right? Maybe, maybe I was sick. So then, but then about a week later, I got my first Morse code shortwave transmission that was a little more explicit. Says, you got to get out of the country, use emergency procedures. We have reason to believe that the FBI is about to arrest you. And I still stalled because the radio could have been broken. I could be in a hospital. One time I actually was not able, and I was supposed to confirm receipt of that message by a signal someplace. And I didn't set the signal. Again, there was precedent. Once I wasn't functional because I had an accident. And for 3 weeks, I was silent. I couldn't do anything with regard to telling them what was going on. So they waited long enough until about, 3 weeks was over. And then somebody actually came to talk to me very briefly. There was a morning in December. I was standing on a platform of the elevated platform of a subway, the A train. It was quite early. It was maybe 6:30. It was still dark. And there's this short man who comes up to me from my right, very short and dressed in black. You wouldn't pay attention to the guy, except he came so close that he could whisper in my ears, "You got to come home or else you're dead." And that, of course, was the moment where I knew I couldn't stall anymore, because now they knew that I knew. So if I now not leave, that would be very suspicious. This is why is he not following the order? So I had this brilliant idea. I would just tell him that I can't come back because I am infected with HIV/AIDS. And I wrote this, and I put this in a letter in secret writing, which they probably received a couple of weeks thereafter. I knew when they had it, because that's when the daily radio transmission stopped. And at that point, I knew that they knew I had AIDS. And they believed it. They had no reason not to believe it. I mean, because, I was highly regarded. I had a lot of dollar savings in Moscow. I was going home as a conquering hero with a special position in society. I didn't know that. Nobody knew that the wall would come down a year later. But so they had no reason to think that I made that up. So they told my German family that I was dead, and and never ever checked on me. Because there was no reason. They had other things to do. I, of course, didn't know that this was going to work. So I made sure that for about 3 months, I wasn't predictably at a certain spot in a certain location at a certain time. So I would vary the times I would go to work. I would vary which subway station I would go to and so forth. But after 3 months, nothing happened. The FBI really wasn't on me, and the KGB left me alone. So I breathed a sigh of relief and sort of started working on my forgetfulness, which was at one point was pretty successful. At one point, I didn't even remember that I once was a spy.